Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's rescheduled Freedom Thinking Community Group. My apologies for the rescheduling. It was my mother's birthday, so we were out doing mother birthday things. We're out for a meal, and it was lovely. We had a really lovely time. But so thanks everybody for your patience and putting up with us whilst we rearranged that. Yeah, my name's Dave Ellery. For those who've never come across me before, my other half, Jen, is hopefully singing my young child to sleep. And so hopefully she'll be coming to join us soon. She looked pretty tired, so all being well, she'll be here. This is a via donation event. We do these each week via donation. That means donate what you can afford. If you get benefit from it, if you like it, if you're enjoying it and would like to make a donation, you're watching this in catch up, please look in the description. There'll be three methods of donation. There's PayPal, which I think we can still accept because we've just been, what's the word, robbed by some scumbags over the internet through PayPal. So I think PayPal's still good. PayPal, I think. Buy me a coffee, or you can contact us directly, info@freedomthinking.co.uk, and we can send you our bank details if some people prefer just to do bank-to-bank transfers. If you're in a position and you cannot afford to make a donation, what we ask is please pay it forward with an act of kindness. You know, we like balance. It's what we're all striving for. We're all striving for equilibrium in our lives, within our being. We're looking for that equilibrium, looking for that center. Like the bubble in the spirit level. We're looking for that center, and balance would imply giving and receiving. So if you are not in a position to donate to Jen and myself, please consider paying it forward with an act of kindness. Do something, go out, help somebody with a garden, I don't know. Go and visit somebody who perhaps needs some love. Perhaps there's an old person down the road. Go and spend some time with them. Go and get to know them. Go and do something kind. Put yourself out there. That's what we ask. That's why that's what we ask when we do these via donation events. So yeah, links in the description below, please. And if you want to get in contact with us, again, info@freedomthinking.co.uk. You can come and work with us. We're based between Essex and the Lake District. Come and see us. Come and do some stuff with us. Also, we have a retreat coming up, an in-person retreat. It was a funny old week a few weeks ago. About 11 people asked us, can you do an in-person retreat? And so, yeah, we're doing an in-person retreat. The only problem is we've forgotten who most of those people were who asked us. So we haven't got in touch with you. So if you're watching this is a shout out to you lot. If you want to come and come to the retreat, it is the 15th to the 19th of August. It's an in-person retreat, 4 days. It's breakfast and dinner included. We don't bother with lunches because people tend to disappear off at lunchtime and go and do their own thing. They'll maybe go into Coniston, which is where it's based. We're on the east side of Coniston for this one, Coniston Water in the Lake District. So it's look out of the building, over the garden, over a field, over Coniston Water, over Coniston Old Man, Wetherlam, and the Western Fells of the Lake District. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful venue. We went and looked at it yesterday. So please, if you're interested in that, if you're watching this in catch up and you think you may be interested in that, get in touch with us. info@freedomthinking.co.uk. It's not on our website at the moment because our website's down. Okay. But you can contact us, info@freedomthinking.co.uk. And we'll be putting details about it on our WhatsApp group and on our Telegram group for those who are on that. If you want your name adding to the WhatsApp group or the Telegram group that we have, the Freedom Thinking events and information group, where we tend to be a bit more active rather than on Facebook or anything like that, please get in touch, info@freedomthinking.co.uk. Send us your telephone number, state WhatsApp or Telegram, and we will add you onto that. But yeah, so we're really excited by this retreat. We're calling it the Great Reset. Yeah, that's what we thought. Great Reset. The Great Reset. And we're hoping that people will have a great reset whilst they're on that retreat. A reset into a higher space of consciousness. That's our aim. That's our goal. That's why we're doing this. We're hoping to get people in the space for insight. If you've been around this a while and you fancy the Great Reset, give us a shout. info@freedomthinking.co.uk. If you know anybody who may be interested in this, please info@freedomthinking.co.uk. Send them our details. There'll be more information to come as and when we get round to doing the flyer, which should be this week, and we will give more information out about that. We'll probably make a little short video and put it on our Freedom Thinking YouTube group page thing, whatever it is, channel. Yeah, please like, please comment, please subscribe, and please share. Yeah, if you know anybody who might like this, please share it with them. And if you're watching in catch up, as many people do, if you have any topic that you would like us to cover, we appreciate not everybody can make a Monday night or a Tuesday night, in fact, tonight. But if you have any topic you'd like for us to talk to, please put it in the comments. Go into this video, go in the comments, say, Dave, Jen, next week, could you address this topic or something like that? And we'll do our best to do so. Or likewise, you can get in touch with us, info@freedomthinking.co.uk, leave us a message there. Or if you are on the WhatsApp or Telegram group, just chuck us a message onto WhatsApp or direct messages. That would probably be better. And we will do our best to talk to it. All right. Paul, did that sound like I've covered everything? 2 thumbs up from Colin. On fire. 2 thumbs up from Colin.
Dave?
Yeah.
Just before you carry on, I am not encouraging anybody to do this. However, you know, on YouTube, you know, when someone puts a down thumb as if they don't agree, like that's more, you get more analytical engagement from a down thumb than you do an up, because it's classed as a I was reading about it the other day. It was classed as a controversial topic.
Oh.
So I'm not encouraging people, but if you ever see someone putting a down thing on your video, engagement's engagement.
That's controversial in and of itself, that, Dan.
I know.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. Do it, don't do it. Do it, don't do it. Do it, don't do it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's just like, you know, if anybody just does it, then they're like, haha, I put a down thumb. You now know that they're still engaging.
Thanks, Dan. Much appreciated. I get it. That's just clicked. Yeah, that's just clicked. Right. One of my good friends, I've said this many times, he called me a computer user, non-technical, because I just had I used to ring him up every other day going, Glenn, what my computer's doing this, and he'd go, you're such an idiot. Do this, 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 and this, like I told you last week. And I would be like, yeah, I forgot. Thanks, Dan. IT is not my strongest subject. Hiya, Julie. Julie, you there? Julie Ward. I'm not sure that is actually Julie Ward. Julie, is that you, love?
Can you hear me?
I was just about to reject you.
Oh,
Somebody once came in under your name and it wasn't you. It was
it was one of them lovely people.
It was rather a graphic thing.
Oh, I've not been.
It wasn't you being graphic either, Julie. So
I've not been very well. So yeah, I've had a bit of a flu bug. But hey, I thought I'd just join in the call tonight because I can make it tonight. So yeah, I thought I'd just listen.
Cool, love. No, you rest. You rest. Thanks for being here, love.
No worries.
All right. Okay, anyone. You've just come to the right time, Julie. We're just about to start. I've just been doing all the businessy stuff. We got a retreat coming up, Julie, if you know of anybody. I'll send you this. You'll hear about it. Right. I want to hand this over to you lot. I don't have a topic in particular to talk about, but I generally don't. And I like it that way. I like it to be relevant. So does anybody have a direction of which they'd like to take tonight's Freedom Thinking Community Group? Colin? Excuse me.
We have got something to share later on about Jehovah's Witnesses, but I'll leave that until later on.
Yeah. It was just a visit to the door.
Just a visit to the doctor. Do you want to go now?
No, I just wanted to share an insight I had. And I know I've mentioned this a few times, that sometimes I get an insight, I think, whoa, where did that come from? I had no idea that sort of thing would happen. And it was a road rage incident. So we were on this big roundabout. I was driving, and you know that cars coming on to the roundabout, they've got to give way to you.
Yeah.
Well, this one didn't, and I had to slam my brakes on to avoid hitting him. So just for about a few choice words came out of my mouth. I won't swear, because in case Lucia's can hear it. But the thing is, it was like instantly it had gone. It had disappeared. It was like almost like a guillotine had come down, and it was forgotten about. And I mean instantly, and it was noticeable because it had gone instantly. And I'd never experienced that before. I mean, I think everybody on the screen here, apart from Lucia, of course, would have experienced road rage, and it tends to stick with you for a bit. You're thinking, but yeah, I was sort of, I was sort of like blown away that it happened so quick. It was so noticeable. So that was it for a share, really, just an insight that I didn't know that I had.
Were you in a white Mazda?
Yeah.
Did you see Lucia shaking a Tic Tacs at you?
Yeah, thought it might have been you.
Yeah, sorry, Cole. But that's such an, that is something that people do speak of regularly. It's something that does become a very kind of apparent part of people's lives. It's not that we are going to constantly stay in a state of blissed out serenity. But when those moments do arise, it's like I don't mind saying when I really do not see thought in action, when I get lost in my experience of reality, and I think I'm frigging right. I remember one time there was a bloke up in Scotland, and he was very aggressive towards me. He was a Scottish fellow. He was a delivery driver, and long story short, we're on a single track road with a cul-de-sac on, where the hell was it? Where were we? On the Isle of Skye, going out to somewhere called Coral Beach. And this is like a 4-mile long dead end road. So I knew I was going to meet him coming back. I pulled in, and had my mum and dad and Jen in the car, and I was a bit of a smart ass. I pulled in, let him pass, and I wound down my window and I said, "Are you having a bad day, mate?" And he went, "Effing C-nuts like you." That's what Jenny spelt. She once called me a C-nut. She tried to spell it, and she spelt it C-N-U-T. "You're such a C-N-U-T." I'm like, "A C-nut? Effing C-nuts like you." He's going, "Effing tourists, effing this, effing that." And I went, I can't remember what the hell I said after that. But he put his van in. He was a delivery driver of some description. Menzies. Put his van in first gear and wheel spun it away. And as he did it, he just drove right down the side of our car. Just right down the side of our car. And I just put the car in reverse and chased him up this single track road. And the more I had to chase him, the more pissed off I got. And in the end, he pulled over, and I'm absolutely livid. I was going flat out. God bless me, Dad. He was trying to get out of the car as I put it in reverse and set off. And he's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Get in the car!" And got caught up with this fella. And I got out, and I was absolutely livid. I was like, "Get out your frigging car. Come on, look what you've done." He's like, no. "You're an effing psycho." He's going, "You're an effing psycho." I'm like, "Go and have a go." And Dad's going, calm down, don't tell me, calm down. Rah, rah, rah. And then he would not get out of his car. And then he's heard, I'm phoning the police. And he's like, so he phones the police. Oh, good, phone the bloody police. You hit me, you stupid. And then all of a sudden, bang, it went. It just left. My anger just vanished. And I'm stood there and I'm right, mate, should we exchange some details here? Right. Do you want to see what you've done to your car? Look what you've done to your van and have a look at mine. You better tell your boss. And he's like, you're an effing psycho. Anyway, so long story short, I said he really doesn't want to come out, Jen. And Jen said, do you realize how mental you look? I said, what do you mean? She said, you look schizophrenic. She said, 1 minute you're absolutely insane, and the next minute you're like nothing's happened. She said, now to most people, you look dangerous when you start doing that. And I'm like, I never thought about that. Anyway, the police came, and in the end, thankfully the police came because he didn't tell his insurance. So the only thing that we had, and they said it was his fault. So the only thing we had to say, which stopped us having a £2,000 fix your car up bill, was the police report that said, yeah, it was him at fault and it wasn't us. But it is funny how all of a sudden I remember being with another lady and me and her had a really big disagreement. And I was livid, absolutely livid. And then all of a sudden it left. And all that was left was love. Just this unbelievable love for this person. And it happened just like that. It was like I went from insanity to complete sanity in a moment. And again, you look insane when that takes place. And it, for people who are around it, it can be quite disorientating because I don't know, they don't catch up quite as quick. I'm not saying it's because they're not as grounded. I'm just saying sometimes people, it takes people a little bit longer. It's all right for you coming out of it, but they perhaps haven't until they come out of it. Do you know what I mean? And it can be quite disorientating for people. But it is something that I notice in my life is that, Col, is this. It's not that I don't feel, but very, very quickly you just come out of it and you're like, oh dear, oh, it's gone. All right. Okay. I'm back to a bit of logic, back to a bit of I nearly said senility then. That's not the word, is it? Is it? No, it's not. That's senility.
No.
That's exactly what I've got right now. Senility. Yeah, bit of common sense.
Serenity.
I wasn't even thinking that. No, not serenity. I can't remember.
Sanity.
Sanity. Took a doctor to come up with that word. Thank you. Sanity. That is the word. Yeah. And what a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Beautiful. What a beautiful gift. It's not that we're not going to feel. It's not that we're not going to get pissed off from time to time. And anybody who thinks that they're listening to this with the view to erasing, deleting a certain kind of spectrum of experience, don't. We're really learning, like we described about the equilibrium of the bubble in the spirit level. We're really looking for that. And equilibrium doesn't get rid of anything. Equilibrium is a state of being whereby, I don't know, you've realized the illusion of life. You've realized the show. You've realized the play, where you've seen that it's all the same thing. It's all the same thing. And when you start to view life from that point of view, and it has to be seen, it has to be realized to be true. It's like you're not trying to get rid of anything at that point. There's nothing to get rid of. You can feel. I remember a man, I might have mentioned this before, but a man who once came to us and he said, I want what you have, Dave. And I said, oh, really? What does that look like to you? And he went, well, it's the peace that you have in your life. And I talked to him about that. And he said, well, you're always happy and you love everyone. And I'm like, no, that's false. I said, that's not true. I said, but, he said he wanted the freedom I had. I said, but I do consider myself to be free. I said, because I'm not afraid to feel anymore. I'm not afraid to experience. I allow myself, I don't dog myself, I don't beat myself up for feelings that I used to deem as being unacceptable feelings. I accept them. I'm a nature boy, and I look at nature and the perfection of nature. I see the perfection of nature. I adore the perfection of nature. And for us to wake up and realign ourselves with nature is one of the human being's things that it has to do. It was never separate from nature. It never had its own identity separate to nature. It's always been 100% nature. It is an aspect of nature as much as the frog or the fungus or the bacteria or the moth or whatever, the bird. And if nature built the human being with the capacity to feel all these feelings, it never made a mistake. It gave us the full spectrum of experience to feel. And to me, that's where the magic of life lies, in this ability to feel all these feelings, to have all these different experiences, to go in and out of realities. There's a difference to having this conversation from a perspective of our reality exists outside of ourselves and therefore it's inflicting itself upon us, to the conversation of realizing that we are the generators of reality. We always have been. We are the magical, infinite self that experiences. And the only thing it's ever experiencing is its own self. It can't experience anything other than itself. So every single thing, this very moment right here, right now that I'm having with you lot, this experience is an experience of me. Everybody on this screen that I know is an experience of me. You're all characters within my play. But the characters that I dream up for you, likewise, I'm a character that you dream up for yourselves. The whole thing is a creation of our being. And this is where the magic lies. This is where the real magic lies, because the moment you go from reality is created outside of me and inflicts itself upon me. Now, I'm not saying circumstance doesn't happen. I'm not saying circumstance doesn't happen. But the reality you encounter of that circumstance, no matter whether it be somebody who pisses you off in a roundabout or whatever it be, whether it be some of the most horrific things on the planet, the experience cannot be experienced outside of the being. Therefore, the being is integral to experience. It's absolutely vital for experience to take place. So vital, in fact, there would be no experience without your presence of it. We are the source of experience, no matter what the experience. And the moment people wake up to that and they realize the fundamental laws of that, they align with that sanity much, much quicker. They really, really do. And that's why people can go from your state, Col, you're in for that few seconds of head fuck. Some people spend years in that head fuck. I did. But for it to come to an end that quickly, just like you experienced. 1 minute it's there, next minute it's gone. That's available to everybody on earth. That is available to everybody on earth. Cheers, Col. Anybody else?
There was one other thing, Dave.
Go for it.
I don't know if I'm imagining this, but I watched last Monday's on Catch Up. And did you mention something about the 3 principles and embodiment?
And embodiment. I can't remember what was spoken about last week.
Yeah, I don't think you elaborated on it. I think you were going to, but I think you went off at a tangent. And I know that's not.
I don't do that.
No. You just cause accidents on roundabouts.
No, Col, can you kind of expand a little bit as best you can?
Well, I can't to what you said, other than I seem to remember that you mentioned it, unless I'm going completely doolally.
What part of it would you have been interested in?
Well, I I have, you know me, I read all sorts of stuff and watch all sorts of videos, and I'm sure one or two of them have, you know, along the lines of the 3Ps, and I'm sure that one or two of them have talked about experiencing the present moment, you know, actually through your body.
Mm.
Yeah. Now, again, I didn't sort of get it entirely what they meant, but you know, I mean, if you get quiet and if you get present, then it's obviously it's fine to sort of notice what's going on in your body, sort of thing. But other than that, I don't know how they've expanded on it, or
Yeah, that's a cool question, mate. I mean, to me, the body is the most wonderful thing. You know, it's something that, yes, we should be paying attention to. Too many people don't listen to the body. They're too busy, too much to do. Can't afford it. No, the body is what makes us human. You know, it's the same consciousness in the tree as it is in the human. But it's the physical body that makes the tree, and it's the physical body that makes the human, the human. There's only one consciousness. It's the ocean that the mystic spoke of. The one ocean of which we are all waves of the same ocean. We're all the same energy taken form, playing an individualized impression of life as though we're all separate from the whole. So yeah, no, the body is what makes us human. But a body has no value without consciousness. The body has no value once the soul decides it's time to leave, and the body just goes back to what it was made of. And if you look at what the body's made of, it's made of stuff you can dig up in a field. So iron, calcium, water, phosphates, nitrogen, nitrates, atmospheric stuff, ground-based stuff. It's a phenomenal setup, the human being. And I think I mentioned this not so long ago, but I believe it costs about, or it did about 10 years ago, costs about 11 quid to buy all the components to build a human body from a pharmacist. But there is a deep intelligence that pieces it together in a way in which it functions as the human body. But again, like everything in the universe, if it gets out of equilibrium, it will leave. Anything that goes out of balance in the universe leaves. So paying attention to our body and keeping it in a good homeostasis, keeping it in a good, keeping the bubble in the center, giving it what it needs, giving it a right amount of exercise, a decent amount of exercise, a healthy amount of exercise, not too much. You'll suffer the consequences of that, but healthy amount of exercise, healthy food. You know, try not to put stuff that isn't organic into your body. It's probably not the best thing to do. But no, I don't know. I've also heard a few people recently speaking about trauma trapped in the body. Now, it's been quite interesting doing this work over the amount of time I've been doing this, and there are certain things that show up, certain character traits. Like if people show up with stomach problems, this is just an observation that Jen and I have had. Certain people show up with stomach problems, stomach pains. Quite often they have this very strange dynamic with the parents. That's something that we've observed. Now, it makes sense to me that if we listen to our body and if we could really understand our body, we'd start to understand the mind a lot better. We'd start to understand our ego, what we hold on to, our beliefs. I'm somebody personally who believes when you do start to understand the body, you will start to see the character traits. That certain illnesses carry with them certain character traits, certain belief systems. But really, it's all energy, because that's what thought is. It's a thought. It's an energy thing. So does the body store energy? Well, the body's made of energy, as is every thought. It's a play, it's a dance between body, mind, body, mind. It's all the same thing. The body isn't separate from the spirit. The spirit is the means by which the body grows. It is only because of the spirit that the body actually exists. Why would the body need to exist if it wasn't for spirit to have an experience through the body of physical dimension? That's why the body exists, but it only exists in the physical dimension. The physical body only exists in the physical dimension. When you leave the physical dimension, you still exist. You still have experience. It's just not in the physical dimension, and it doesn't feel separate. It doesn't feel like a separate experience, as in Dave is separate from this, that, or the other. It's a washing. It's an engulfing when you leave, an absolute engulfing of unity. But people would often say things like trauma is trapped in the body. Now that, as though the body is the source. And I remember listening to somebody in the last year or so speaking, we've spoken about this on Community Group because it was raised, about trauma being trapped in the body and how the principles is really only 20% of the picture. The rest of it is body. Now, that makes no sense to me whatsoever. That makes zero sense to me. There is nothing that can be experienced outside of consciousness. How can somebody ever experience something outside of consciousness, out of the awareness of the self? How could they? How can you experience anything outside of yourself? Wherever you go, there you are. Even if you leave your body and look back at your body, there you are. Looking from yourself. Yourself is, we in the West have got so addicted to the idea that we are a physical body and that's it. We're just a ball of chemicals. Thought is a production of chemicals within the magic, no, not even magic, the complex is probably the more accurate word that would be used, the complex neurology of the human brain. But I personally have had experiences of looking back at my body, being out of my body, being totally aware of looking at my body. Now, they can dismiss that as however they want. Oh, that's some complex neurological event taking place. No, it's not. I am fully aware I've left my body. I feel it. I can see my body. It's real. It's a real event that takes place. I'm not the only person on the planet who's experienced it. Many people have experienced it. Many, many, many people have experienced it. You know, so there is more evidence for life after death than there is no life after death. There is no evidence whatsoever there is no life after death, because you can't have evidence of that. However, there are countless millions of people around the world who have what they call near-death experiences. So they speak about leaving their body, leaving the physical dimension and entering into these other realms of reality. Why? Because reality, all these realities are potentials within ourself. They are not outside of ourself. Our self is an infinite vessel of experience. The only thing we're ever experiencing is ourself. But don't forget, the self I'm talking about isn't Dave, it's not Seeker, it's not Dan, it's not Louise. It's the infinite being self. It's the singularity of life. It's the magical consciousness that is all things. Therefore, all experiences lie within that. Therefore, the only thing we're ever experiencing is a potential drawn from within that experience, potential in any given moment. But because we keep drawing out the same potentials, it creates what looks like a fixed identity. And this is where we start to get stuck, because our natural state is one of flow. It's wave over particle. Particles come about because of the wave, because of the collapsing of waves, according to quantum physics. But in order for it to collapse, it needs an observer. It needs consciousness to be present to collapse the wave into a particle. We tend to think of ourselves as particle over wave. The truest state of being is one of wave, because that's an eternal state of being, and then you get this collapsing into the physical dimension. That's how apparently all this physical world is created. It's created from energy collapsing into particle, light, photon, photonic, or whatever, what's the other word I'm thinking of? Electrons and stuff like that. Protons, the fundamental particles that build up this physical dimension. But And that's what makes everything. It's what makes our cells. It's what makes where atoms come from. The atomic structure of everything, and everything is made of atomic structure. But the unifying field is that from which all this atomic structure is born, and it's all the same field. So you have this collapsing into physical dimension, this physical world taking place on a quantum scale, on a massive scale through quantum. And then we have the same process taking place through within ourselves. So we are infinite wave pattern potential, and we collapse it into particle. What, for want of a better word, this is a metaphor. Collapse it into particle as an experience. But that particle will then drop back into the ocean. And then you'll have a new experience. From 1 minute, Dave, I was pulling out to a roundabout. I was thoroughly pissed off. Next minute, gone. The wave returned back into the infinite sea of potential, and new potential was drawn out. Now, the way I personally see this conversation is never about fixing anything. This isn't about fixing us or healing us. Many people, because this has gone into psychiatry and psychology, it becomes a thing, it becomes a healing modality. This isn't a healing modality at all. This is a conversation about how reality works, how reality is born. Because until we understand how reality is born, we will walk around blindly, living in a state of confusion. And if there's one thing that the human being fears the most, it's the unknown. Human beings fear the unknown. They hate the unknown. They hate not knowing. So what we have is a species that's walking around on the planet that doesn't know who it is, doesn't know where it came from, doesn't know how reality works, doesn't realize how special it is. It lives in this enormous unknown, and it creates chaos within its own being. It draws from its infinite potential, it draws out fear, because it thinks the fear is going to keep it safe. But it hasn't realized en masse yet that there's nothing actually to be afraid of. There's nothing to be afraid of. The only thing we can ever fear, and I said this to a lady the other day, I said, what do you think I said, there's only ever one fear, one source of fear on the face of this planet. There is one source of fear on the face of this planet. What do you think that is? This lady's husband he died 10 years ago. He died at the age of 43 of cancer. And she said, being lonely? I said, no. I said, no, I know people who don't want to be around people. They're perfectly happy on their own. So no, not lonely, no, love. She says, what is it? I said, their own mind. The only thing we ever fear is our own minds, the creation of our own mind, because that is the only thing we're ever experiencing. Just sit with that thought for a moment. Weigh it up. Question it. Don't believe me. The only thing we are ever afraid of, ever, is our own mind. Forever. That is no small point. That is a life-changing realization for an individual who realizes the truth of the magnitude of that point. The only thing we are ever fearing is our own thoughts. The creations of our thoughts, the images we create about what the future will look like. You can only ever be afraid of the future. Oh, the what ifs, the this, the that. Oh, am I safe? Is it going to hurt me? Even if you're in the midst of pulling out in front of somebody and they're going mad, are they going to follow me? Are they going to follow me? Future-based. Oh, they hit my car. Am I going to be all right? Future-based. All the anxieties, all the worries, all the fear. The only thing we are ever afraid of is that we create in our mind. Why? Because there is no other source for experience. The only thing I ever experience is the reality generated by my own consciousness. The only thing Colin, Catherine ever experience is the experience generated by their own consciousness. Kath, did you have the same experience as Col when you had that road rage incident?
No, not at all. No,
Okay.
I was quite calm about it, to be honest. It didn't affect me at all like it affected Colin. I was shocked. You know, like you think this car is going to hit you, so I was shocked, but I just got over it straight away. And Colin did, pretty quickly as well. So I think we both reacted differently to how we would have been. And previously, I would have ruminated afterwards. Oh, what if it had hit us? What if this? What if that? But there was none of it. We didn't do any of that. We just said, "Oh, look, we're not doing that." We noticed, both of us.
Yeah. It's partly because I'm such a brilliant driver, you see.
Yeah.
I saw how skillfully you dodged our car. But there you go. Two people sat in the same car, facing the same circumstance, two very different experience. If the experience was genuinely being created outside of them, they would both have to sit there and go, "No, Dave, this is how I saw it. Cole, I saw it exactly the same as you." No, but we didn't. I saw it very differently. I wasn't really that bothered. Cole got a bit more wound up than me, then came down. I just came down pretty much straight away. It's like, if the experience was created by the road, by the traffic, by the roundabout, by the event, it would make logical sense if that was the source of the experience, that it would have to be that you both had the same experience, because the source would be giving it to you. But you can see from this example with Colin Cath here that that's not what's taken place. The source lies within. Source lies within. Source lies within. That's what the mystics have told us all the way through thousands of years. Stop looking out there. The answer doesn't lie out there. That's an illusion. What you think of out there is actually inside you. Everything you see out there is going on within you. Everything you see out there is an event because of your physiology and the consciousness that you are. The eyes don't see out, they take in light. They just take in light. That's what the eye does. It takes in light. That's why when you look at the sun, it contracts. It's taking in light. Everything you see is within you. Everything you hear. There's no sound between my vocal cords, the microphone, your speakers, and the eardrum. There's no sound. There's just movements of air molecules. That's all there is. And it takes an eardrum and consciousness, because a dead eardrum, the eardrum of a dead human being, doesn't hear. It requires consciousness, the consciousness of the soul, the being, to be there, to have the experience of sound, the experience of hearing, the experience of sight, the experience. It's all an experience. Where does experience come from? Does the experience come from the traffic? If it did, you two would had to have seen the same reality, but you didn't. So therefore, where is this source of experience? Is it outside or is it inside? Again, I'm not saying circumstance doesn't happen. What took place at the roundabout took place. It happened. But that's not what you experience. You experience whatever goes on for you in the moment, whatever you create via the power of thought in that moment as your experience of it.
Can I just say, I'm changing the subject here, but I'm going back to us with the Jehovah's Witnesses here.
Oh yeah,
No, we haven't gone there.
I know, I'm going there.
I was waiting for Jenny to pop in.
Well, whatever. I'm going there now. It's just two of us having a different experience. I was just getting out of the shower, hair wet, and I heard a knock at the door. Colin went to the door. We were expecting a neighbour, so I just thought, oh, it's going to be the neighbour. And I realised Colin had been at the door ages, And so I'd got dried my hair with the hairdryer, got dressed, done everything, walked through the whole bottom, and he's still there chatting away. And I realised, oh, it's a Jehovah's Witness. Colin's trying to Colin's ego. He doesn't realise it. That we've got this really, really nice chap at the door trying to convert Colin, and Colin is trying to invite him in to convert him. So I'm stood back listening to it, and I eventually, and I says, I'd give in if I were you. You know, I says, you're not winning. I says, I'd just give in if I were you to this fella. Very nicely. And I went into the kitchen and I was pottering around. I washed up. I did all sorts in the kitchen. Went to Hall Bottom and they're still at it. But because Colin were actually, he were talking to this chap and he's quoting messages from Bible. He's going through all sorts. And then afterwards, this chappie went and eventually he realised, oh, I better give this up as a bad job. And I said to Colin afterwards, I says, Colin was quite enjoying himself because he wanted to convert this really nice man. But I could see Colin's ego.
Yeah.
Because he was absolutely adamant, I am right. And I'm looking back, looking at this, chuckling away to myself because, you know, like he was just enjoying himself. But it wasn't what he was saying. It was the fact that he had to be right. So this is from two perspectives. I'm listening to it, chuckling away, thinking, oh, Colin's off. He's off on one. And this guy's looking at this Colin thinking, oh, he's lost it. And then, because he starts quoting aliens in Bible, he's talking about all sorts, Colin. And I'm just thinking, oh, just give up on this. But I could see his ego. He were absolutely adamant. He had to be right. He wasn't forceful or anything. And this other guy wasn't forceful, but they were both trying to, if Colin said something, this other chap came back with his version of it. So Colin had said, no, it's this. And he'd be, no, it's this. And then eventually I just said, look, just give up, just give in. You know, and then he went away quite happily. And I think it will probably good because we're probably blacklisted now. Never go to that house.
Colin's going to turn up at the Kingdom Hall this week, isn't he?
I've made a note.
Yeah.
To be fair, what Catherine's saying is right, and I realised afterwards that that was actually a lesson for me.
Yeah.
So, you know,
it was your ego, not what you wanted to say. It was your ego. You were adamant you were going to be right. Yeah, and I could see that.
What I love about what you just said just then, Col, is the humility.
Yeah.
You know, again, that's one of the beautiful gifts of starting to align with life is humility. You know, I do that. I think I'm right. Jenny bought me a bloody keyring that says Mr. Always Right on it. She gave it to the wrong person, I think. She just did a present for me. She bought it for herself. Oh, that'd be Mrs. Damn. But yeah, I don't know. I think so much freedom comes from allowing yourself to be wrong. You know, admitting I fucked up. Sorry. I'm sorry. You know, the freedom that lies in there and the humility to be wrong. It's a great gift. You know, I don't know of any wise person. I don't think the likes of Jesus came into this world and said, right, be headstrong as fuck. Be always right. You cannot be wrong. He spoke about, you know, be humble. You know, humility is one of our greatest gifts because in humility, it allows us to think again. It gives us the capacity to create a new humility allows us to create new realities. Realities that are more in alignment with what we truly want for life. It can be very easy for us to get stuck in our ideological ruts. You know, and then we just get this regurgitation of same old, same old. That's what mind will do. It doesn't give a shit. Mind will bring to life. It will create any experience. It has no judgment. It has no judgment whatsoever. It will allow you to experience anything. Or should I say, you will experience the infinite variety of the same old thing over and over again. You have that potential to continuously draw out the same potential out of the infinite, sorry. It doesn't care. It's not going to judge. But humility is the force that we are endowed with to question it. To question our own realities, and in doing so we have the opportunity to create new ones. It's a beautiful gift. Not everybody on earth exercises humility. They see it as a weakness. Some people see it as a weakness. I see it as one of our greatest strengths. I would sooner be around a humble person, somebody, I'm not bothered about people. Like I saw one of my old teachers yesterday, two of my old teachers walking down the street together. I had Lucia in my arms. And my old English teacher said, "Oh, Lucia, wow, you've grown. You'll be going to school soon." And I shook my head and went, "No, she's not." And I braced myself, and she was like, "Oh, God. Oh, God," said my English teacher. "Oh, God. Oh, Dave, don't do it. Don't do it to her. They're weird. Homeschooled kids are weird." And my old maths teacher just went, "I'm going to go and get some vegetables." And she walked over to the market. I haven't seen either of these teachers for the last couple of years. And the next day, I go to Growing Well, which is a mental health thing, which grows vegetables, organic garden in Cumbria. Awesome setup, wonderful setup. And my maths teacher's there, and she says to me, she says, "I'm so sorry about what so-and-so said yesterday." I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "Well, saying that homeschool kids are weird." She said, "They're not, Dave." She said, "If you want to homeschool, she'll be fine." I said, I know. Yeah, no, thank you. I said, "You didn't need to say that." But I said, everybody's entitled to their opinion. She said, "Yeah, but I don't think they should always be allowed to express it." I said, "I do. I think they should be allowed to express their opinion. I think we should be allowed to express our opinions." I said, "Because it doesn't hurt me." I said, "She can't hurt me, because I have realized nobody can hurt me. The only thing I'm ever experiencing is the creation of my own mind. I can't blame somebody for my feelings, even if I'm really fucked off with them. I can't really blame them. I can't, because the only thing I'm ever experiencing is my own consciousness, my creation. So I can't really blame them for what I've created. That'd be like me drawing a picture and then blaming somebody over there for what I've drawn. So, and I had this lovely conversation. This lady, she tried to put my mind at ease about homeschooling, because we are going to homeschool. And I explained my logic behind it, and she didn't disagree with me, which was interesting. I don't need her to be humble for me still to love her. I don't need my old English teacher to be humble for me still to love her. She has got so many awesome qualities. She's one funny lady. I've been out drinking with that lady. I used to play hockey with her husband, who was my maths teacher. And I got in a bath naked with my maths teacher. There's not many pupils who can say that. We were both legitimate adults and we both consented. So, I mean, we've had some really good times together, and I don't need her to be anything other than who she is. She is entitled to her reality, and I'm entitled to mine. And the more that we as a species can embrace the diversity of experience that this entire world is, it's a diversity of experience. It's infinite experience taking place now, if you look at it. Why? Because people are being born and people are leaving. Right here, right now. Birth and life aren't things that happen in the future or the past. They're things that happen in the now. So right here, right now is birth and death taking place. Creation and destruction taking place now. Okay, so as people are coming in, people are leaving. As plants are coming in, plants are leaving. Insects are coming in, insects are leaving. Birds are coming in, birds are leaving. All this infinite experience coming and going at the same time. That's what's taking place. And this world is going to change for the better, not when everybody thinks the same, which seems to be the narrative of what it seems like to me like there seems to be this push to get everybody to think the same way, and therefore they will find peace in this world. I don't see that. I feel like peace is going to happen in this world the moment people accept that we all see different realities. We all live in separate realities, and we are gracious enough to allow somebody else to have their experience of life and their opinions. Who am I to think that my way is right? Fuck me, please, never. Oh, God, no. Never. No, seriously, it's like nature geared it this way, God geared it this way, that we are infinite experiential beings within an infinite experience. You know, and the more we can accept and be humble enough to listen to and acknowledge and be gracious enough to accept other people's reality, the quicker this world will turn into the most awesome place to live. War would end. People would truly start to listen to one another. They'd get interested in your reality. Oh, that's how, so you don't see the same world as me. Oh, sorry, I've been thinking you must see the same world as me, and you were getting it wrong. You literally don't see the same world as me. No. Oh, tell me about your world. What's it like, Muslim, to be a Jew? What's it like, Jew, to be a Muslim? What's it like to be a Hindu? What's it like to be a Christian? What's it like to be a Catholic? What's it like to be an atheist? What's it like to be a realist? Talk to me. Get interested. You know, once that happens, when that starts to take place, watch what happens to Earth. It will accelerate into the most phenomenal space. Imagine the technology available to mankind when mankind stops fighting one another, starts listening to one another, pooling knowledge and coming up with genius ideas. Look what we've created so far. Pretty awesome. Imagine what happens when we stop fighting one another, when we stop, because that's all the only thing we're ever fighting is an ideology. What is an ideology? A thought. You're wrong, I'm right. And because you're wrong, you're a threat to me. I'm afraid. What are we afraid of? Our own thoughts. But we don't see that en masse as a species. It's coming. It's coming. Just you lot being on this screen, and you lot, if you're watching this and catch up, you lot are helping this take place. I say this, if you weren't ready to wake up, this conversation you wouldn't click on it, let alone listen to it this far, let alone if you clicked on this before, clicked on Freedom Thinking or anything like this kind of conversation. If you weren't ready to step into higher spaces of consciousness, you just wouldn't click on it. It would jar you, it would grate you would, and we have people like that. I know people like that who just, you know, when you're throwing pearls to sows, as Jesus said it, don't throw pearls to sows. You know when you're throwing pearls to sows because they instantly cut you down, and you're, okay, we won't go there. Let's stop at this level for now. You know, it's yeah, that's cool, Cole. Humility is just one of the greatest gifts. I remember saying to my niece, you know, I've been a dick most of my life, and I said to her, there's been 3 things that have got me out of trouble. Please, thank you, I'm sorry. I said, those 3 words have carried me through my life when I've meant them. They've carried me throughout my life. They've been some of my greatest gifts. I think I can hear Jen coming up. She's gone into the kitchen. Shit. All right, anybody else?
So,
Seekers.
hi, Dave.
Hiya, love.
I just wanted to say my experience, or share my experience of the same topic that Colin has raised about the Jehovah's Witnesses. However, mine is completely different, as is created by the thought. And I was having a really shitty time in my life. Just got out of a relationship, gone wrong, and stuff like that. And for whatever reason, I decided to contact a colleague of mine with whom I had a debate like Colin had, like 8 months before. And she, I said, you know what, I'm in a tough spot. I need to speak to you. And it's not like she asked me to come along to the Kingdom Hall, as you say. And while at that meeting, I heard something being said which resonated with me. I'm not saying that I'm a Jehovah's Witness at all, but it was also along that time that those people actually helped me in the most trying phase of my life. I was completely alone, broken. It was absolute shit. And they came, they helped. They didn't know me from Adam, really, to be honest. Why would they have to help me at all? And I'm not even in their congregation to help at all. And it's funny how subsequently I am now in a study of the Bible. And it was all, I feel that people come to us through divine movement, so to speak, at least. So I think I've shared with you before about how I met Annette and everyone. So this was happening at the same time with Annette and this lady with the Bible study, and together, and so many other people who were not even friends of mine, to be honest, to start with. But now they have enriched my life so much with all their little wisdoms, and I'm just being curious, and knowing the principles has helped me be more receptive to what they're trying to tell me. And I must tell you, there are some really incredible truths in the Bible. This is my experience. I'm not trying to convert anybody, or I'm not an expert in this at all. But I think I have grown to find an appreciation for every single thing. And when the more I look at nature and how we are, how we have fingers and moves and everything, it's just, I find it hard to believe that there isn't a God. And I am a woman who has been raised in science. And yes, I went to church in my younger years, and then I fell off the wagon completely, and I refused to go into church for 15 years or so. And now to come back into this through such weird placements, I can't tell you, it's just things have been moving in my life, which is just, I have absolutely no idea how that is happening. Even sitting here in this meeting is because I wouldn't have been here. But all I'm trying to say is maybe just being a bit more gracious to what other people say may actually enlighten us in different parts of our lives. And like you say, or like everyone says, that we are all part of the same divine consciousness, universal consciousness and universal energy. And so therefore, why are we all fighting each other? Maybe that person is trying to tell you something which might resonate with you in your life. And they come in that opportune moment just to, maybe there is something that in a future experience might benefit you in some way, or course correct your path. And yeah, I'm just saying I've had a different experience with Jehovah's Witnesses. They are really interesting. They're really interesting, and I find that the principles in their interpretation of the Bible are pretty much interconnected. And I was quite surprised with that, because when I entered the Bible study, I was like, nah, no, there's nothing you can tell me that is going to make me change my mind. And then the more I decided to let go of my ego, the more I found peace, not just in the Bible, but in people like the community that we have here, different people, and in different walks of life. Sorry, I'm just rambling. I'm gonna stop.
Oh, Sika, no, beautiful, love. Thank you so much. No, I wasn't rambling. I thought that was beautiful and pertinent. I have some very dear friends of mine who are JW, and
I've just met a load of people from to do with Lucia, like one of the forest
oh
schools,
yeah,
who just
they're ace, aren't they?
yeah, just some of the nicest, most helpful, loving people we've met.
Yeah, beautiful. I used to do, like, one girl who, one of my dear friends, she's JW, and she always wanted me to join. I used to love having conversation with her. I used to love having conversation. And another fellow I used to do tree work with, I remember saying to him, how come you are Jehovah's Witness? And he said, I was born into Jehovah's Witness family. He said, but I fell out with it. He said, and I was excommunicated from the community, and he found that hard. He said, so I just did my own thing for was it about 15 years. He said that then I was looking at my life, and he said it lacked fullness, it lacked richness. He said, so I went back. He said, I didn't go back because I was lonely. He said, I went back because when I was being aware of God, being reminded to be aware of God, my life was fuller. I'm like, can't argue with that, mate. And it's interesting because I think the very fabric, the very foundation of every single religion is love and tolerance. Love and tolerance. I mean, that's just what we've just been talking about, to allow people to have their reality without the need to either put them down or beat them up, is tolerance, which is one of the founding principles of pretty much every single religion, love and tolerance. Now, that is, if we could create a society of people who could live with those qualities, this world would be phenomenal. But we were asked to do she's not on tonight, isn't Wen, but we were asked to do a graduation talk for her group, her and David's group, David Cottrell's group. And I was saying, now in my life, I was brought up as a Christian, and I used to go to church. My mum never believed in God. I said, then why did you send us to church, Mum? She said, well, because I had an abortion. I said, if you don't believe in God, I said, why would that be a problem? And it's just something she couldn't answer. And I stopped going to church when I was about 11, went to secondary school. I used to sing in the choir. I used to love it. I used to believe in God. I used to believe in Christianity. And then I fell out of love with it. And I have to admit, when I fell out of love with it, I experienced what Sam experienced. I experienced an emptiness within myself. And that emptiness only got filled when I had my awakening after listening to Sid Banks. That was when I was refilled with divinity, the respect for the fact. I'm not bothered if this offends people, this word offends people, the fact of the divine nature of existence, the intelligence. I'm not somebody who conforms to the idea that God is a man. No, because man is creation. Any being is a creation. But that from which beings emerge, that from which everything emerges from, the intelligence, where does human intelligence come from? What is that? Where does it come from? Where does all this new information come from? What is thought? Where does each thought emerge? What is the infinite potential of the self? And then coming across the likes of the Book of Thomas, which people regularly hear me quote, but again, it was something that, again, it brought for me the notion of religion back to life again. I'm not a religious man personally, but I'm like you, Seeker. I'll keep my heart open and my ears open, and I'll listen. And to listen to the Book of Thomas and hear Yeshua, which was the Aramaic name for Jesus, to hear Yeshua say, when he was asked the question, where is this God's kingdom that you speak of? And he said, the kingdom is both inside of you and outside of you. It's in here and it's in here, and it's all around us. You're never separate from it. And he was asked again, where is this God's kingdom? And he said, the kingdom is within the heart of every man, woman, and child. The God's kingdom. The kingdom is within you. Don't look outside, look within. And things like become a passerby. Understand you are seeing each moment for the very first and the very last time in the eternal now. Like, this was valuable information being handed out. It was somebody trying to explain how reality is born. It is done unto you as you believe. It's done unto you as you believe. God is love. It's a very specific statement, is that God is love. God is love. What is love then? What is this unifying force? What is that we're all seeking, that we all experience? What is that? What is that vibration? What is that? What is the magnitude of that point? What is that exists within our being? That state of being that we seek in every single action we take. It's like when you start opening up your heart, it takes a bit of humility, especially for those who are of the scientific mind. I had a good friend of mine who came to work with me because he was desperate. He was so desperate, at his wit's end. And he came and, I want to speak to you, Dave, I want to speak to you. I was so surprised he wanted to speak to me. So surprised, I couldn't believe it. And then he said, Dave, these alternative views of consciousness are not for me. I said, mate, I'm sorry to say this, but your scientific paradigm views of consciousness, they are the alternative views of consciousness, mate. Let science catch up. And he never came back. You know, some people aren't ready. Don't throw pearls to sows. You quickly lose your friends that way. But yeah, no, I love what you're saying there, Seeker.
I was thinking of Godel, who's spoken on one of our retreats, who's a Congolese refugee who was living in South Africa when we went and did the work, teaching the principles. What I loved about him is he had this huge wake up, and when we then spoke to him when we got back to the UK, he'd gone back through all of his theosophy, his philosophy, and he was just telling us quote after quote after quote.
He was primed for being a Catholic
priest.
Priest.
He trained from 11 to 21 to be a Catholic priest, and he was just about to be ordained. And then he was made disabled in a footballing accident. And then in Africa, it said if you are disabled, you can't speak the word of God. So then he fell out with God. And then it was through the principles that he found God not outside but inside. And what he shares is so powerful.
Nice.
But what I loved is that some people come across the principles and then they go away and look for evidence against it, which is fine. They're just looking to see, is it like testing things, is it true, is it true? But he woke up to something so, it's just so alive in him that he just said he wanted to go back into all these texts, like, wow, that truth was right in front of my face, but I didn't see the truth that was in front of my face because it was covered. But suddenly it's like he had eyes for truth and ears to be able to hear truth. And we all just sat there like, yeah, what you said. Yeah, what you said.
Yeah,
Like, and
beautiful.
he's so clever.
He said that God I feared, the God that's over there, the God that watches me from afar, that God I've been afraid of. He said, I've discovered somehow I am that God. I am that I have been afraid of. And it was similarly when we were doing the work in Glen Hazel, which is the Jewish part of Johannesburg, South Africa, when we did a lot of work in that community there. One of the feedback we got was things like, I can really hear the Torah now. I can hear the Torah. I can hear the truth in the Torah. Because, Seeker, as far as I'm concerned, you're absolutely correct. The truth is there. Yes, it's been doctored. Yes, chapters have been removed. And I personally think some of the most valuable chapters have been removed. And I think if I was a king and I wanted to be kingly and I wanted to maintain control, I'd probably remove them as well. I can understand that. But the truth's still there. But it's when you can hear it from a space from which you hear the simplicity. Because it's always simple. It's so simple. If it's getting complex, if this conversation starts to become complex in the mind, that's not truth. Truth is simple. You know, anytime I've had any insight, it has been the most simple whisperings of truth. Like, oh, well, that's obvious. Oh, that was simple. But you can't argue with it. You can argue with complexity because there's so much to go up against, but the simplicity of it it speaks for itself. We're all just the same thing, creating our own realities, each of us thinking that our complex little realities are the truth, then killing one another over it.
I loved it when Sid just said, there's no one more wise than you. There isn't a hierarchy. It's a creation of the mind. And I think we said it on community group last week or the week before when Lucia I walked into the kitchen and she was muttering something. I said, what did you say? And she was saying, trust in life. Trust in life. And I said, who told you to say that? And she said, me. And I said, oh, have you heard anyone say it before? And she said, oh, Raya says it over and over. Raya's her doll. Raya says it to me over and over again. And then that was on the Monday. And then on the Wednesday, she was saying, respect your life. Respect your life. And I just thought, you're 3 years old. And there's just this, like when she was speaking, I'm like, no, that's so wise. That's such a wise thing to say. And I think that's the thing about the recognition of what life is. It takes out the dualities, and it takes out over there and over here and wise and unwise. Like we all have access to the same source. We are all part of that same source. And I think that's the nice thing. Like I've loved listening to different religious talks, and after I came across the principles, I was still doing wedding photography. And when I was then in church photographing the weddings, I could actually hear the way that was spoken, and I'd suddenly start hearing bits of truth and be like, what? I never heard this when I was at school or when I used to go to church. And there was a beautiful poem by Khalil Gibran. I know I'm saying his name probably completely wrong, but it had the word God in it. And my mum and dad had it in like gold leaf with this incredible calligraphy, quite big on the wall. And I'd always just dismissed it because it had the word God in it. Then after coming across the principles, for some reason, I was just idly kind of sat there and I read it and I was like, wow. But I'd been switched off by a noise, by the word God. And I think that's what happens is we all create our own personal concept of what a word means or what someone's saying when they say specific words. And that's what we're up against. We're up against our own creations. And then we listen through that and it filters everything through our own limited created belief system. And I think as that falls away, when you said you just suddenly felt this peace and you could listen different, that's what I think in Buddhism they call beginner's mind. You everything you know kind of collapses and then you listen different. And then you can hear. And then you'll hear the truth in music, in poetry, in movies, from children, in religion. Like the truth is just, I think that's another one of Sid's quotes is, you know, truth isn't hiding from us. And it's hidden in plain sight. But we don't have eyes for it. And I think the principle seems to attune us to truth, and then you start seeing it and you start realizing it. And I think you do start seeing the miracle in the fact that we have fingers or like anything. The miracle, like Lucia fell off her bike and landed on her face and it's had this, it looked like the worst lip filler gone wrong. It was so huge, her top lip. Like all the pressure was in this top lip. It was like a ball. And she was just saying, I want it to be gone. I want it to be gone. I said, don't worry, your amazing immune system's going to completely heal this. And then we put some ice on it to help it go down. She had an arnica. She really was in shock. But like her body has done whatever it needs to do to heal that. And now it's just like a scab. All the swelling's gone. And it's like what is going on in our bodies that does that? Like we're not directing it, but there's this innate healing built into us. And that same innate healing exists within mind, within consciousness, within our psychology. It's not even a separate system. It's the same system up and running. But I think we, in some ways, how we don't always trust the immune system physically. We don't trust it mentally either. And I feel like the principles put this just total knowing or trust in an immune system built in for physical, mental, spiritual. It's just part of the package. This self-correcting system if left alone. And I think with the principles, you take your hands off and let life live and stop trying to like do it and meddle it. And then you get these little whispers and you follow that. And like some of the different synchronicities that have happened in our life since I had them before the principles, but it felt like after I came across the principles, it's like, wow. And it does feel like we're not separate. And the amount of time someone will pop into your mind and then they either text or they email or you bump into them, like you see that one divine, that one spirit, that one mind, we're just part of a whole. And I think I was talking about probably to you the other day. My mum used to be really into Louise L. Hay, and yeah, so she's really into. I was reading a little bit the other day because I was looking up someone's being diagnosed with something, so I was looking up what her interpretation of it was, and she just said something about the mind and the body are not two separate things. It's unity. So it's not saying that there is a psychological cause of illness. It's saying you can't separate psychology and body because it's a union. And I really, really heard something in that. And I think that's what we continually try and do as human beings is like separate everything. Is it this or is it that? Is it this or is it that? And the principles puts it back together again. Spirituality, psychology, form, formless. No, it's just it's a level playing field, and you can then speak to people from any religion, any background. But like Wendy's Christian, she shares the principles, and she listens. She listens to people, and she's open to learning. And you could have somebody who, within the principles community, that gets so fixated on their view, they start arguing against someone else's view and thinking they're more right. And I've probably done that actually over the years. If you could just see these principles, it's a bit more right than what you're talking about, then you're not listening. But it's still words. Principles are still using words to point to something.
It's very easy for it to become a dogmatic.
Well, I came across it at a time where it felt like, oh, you should never meditate. You shouldn't do this. There's all these like shoulds and shouldn'ts if you understand the principles. And then that wasn't the principles. That was different facilitators' personal opinions that then got woven in with the message. So I can see how easily it could become another religion in a way. But at its heart, you know, it's pointing to something so pure.
I feel that when you hear a truth from somebody in the form of their discussions, if it is actually true and it resonates with you, it kind of hits you like on a very, I don't know, it almost kind of floors you. So it doesn't matter whether it is shrouded in the name of religion or science or three principles or whatever it is, whichever religion, it doesn't matter as long as I guess you can feel it, whether it is the truth or not.
Totally. Yeah. More often than not, it'll make no sense here, because the problem, we try and figure it all out with the intellect, but truth, and people say, well, what is truth? You can't articulate truth, because to articulate is to collapse it. To articulate is to point to the wave and go, oh, it's that, when we're talking about the ocean. But no, you can absolutely feel it. You feel truth, you feel it in your being, it comes alive, you resonates, it vibrates, it hums, it kind of knocks you for six. Yeah, absolutely, love. Totally. It was nice just then, you know, what you just spoke about just then. The only book I've ever read in my life was a book by
Well, you've read a lot of storybooks now.
I've read, so actually, you're absolutely right. I'm doing really well, aren't I?
Yeah, I mean,
doing
Superworm
really well.
and Tiddler.
Yeah,
You've read a lot.
I can do that from start to finish. Yeah, the only non-child's book I've ever read was Biology of Belief by Dr. Bruce Lipton. And it's Bruce Lipton, isn't it? Yeah, Bruce Lipton. And he was one of the original stem cell researchers who was doing stem cell research. And this was 50 odd years ago now. And genetics had been discovered within like 40 years previous. So genetics was very much at the forefront of understanding human beings and understanding life itself. And it became pretty quickly, the idea became that everything is predetermined by our genetics. And so if you've got genetics written, if you've got cancer written into the genetics of your coding, then you are going to get cancer. If you've got depression within your family, you are likely to get depression because it's written into your DNA coding. And so they were doing these stem cell researches and research activities. And one of the things that they did was they took a stem cell out to begin with, and they popped it in a Petri dish, and they were observing it. And he described their observations of it. And he said, they took in nutrients, it excreted, it shied away from toxins. Basically, it acts like the larger organism that it contributed towards. It did exactly the same things. So what the human body would do, the cell did. And he said it also, but one of the things that hit us after a while was the fact, oh, it's still alive. He said, and then we carried on observing it. He said, and after a while, it divided. And you had a clone. Why? Because it's the same cell divided into two. It contained the same genetic sequence within the DNA, the nucleus of the cell contained the same DNA and the same RNA. And once they realized that could happen, then the experiments could really start to take place. And so what they did was they moved these two cloned cells into different environments. One, he said, this is what Flore does. He said one changed to flesh and one changed to bone. He said, now that shouldn't work. That shouldn't happen, because written into the DNA is what that cell is to become. He said, but that's not what happened. One changed to flesh and one changed to bone. So they took another cell out, they put it in a petri dish. They let them divide. Let it divide, became two. So what they did was they thought, right, let's take the brain out. Let's take the nucleus out, the information, the DNA, the RNA. So they put a needle in and they extracted the nucleus out of each cell. The cell lived. It took in nutrients, it shied away from toxins, and it excreted. They then moved it into the different environments again. One changed to flesh, one changed to bone. The only thing the cell couldn't do was replicate. It couldn't divide itself. It could no longer divide without the nucleus. This was Dr. Bruce Lipton's insight moment. And he said, what I realized was the cells are not getting information from what we think of as the brain. He described it as being, they're getting information from the environment. Now, in the way I would describe that, what he's really describing is they're getting information from the space that is all things. He was looking at the world from a very materialist biological point of view. And all of a sudden it went from being materialist plus something else. And this something else is what he became fascinated in. And in the book of, in the Biology of Beliefs, he speaks about there is a force in this universe that activates. Yes, you can have your predisposition written into your DNA, your genetic coding, but it doesn't mean you have to get it. He said, and the power that activates or switches off genetics is thought, belief. So here's a scientist speaking about the power of thought and its capacity to affect the body. Now, think about this logically, the ramifications of this. We know for a fact that stress can kill people, but not very many people truly know what stress is. People associate stress with something outside of themselves. Work, traffic, roundabouts, relationships, money, weather. Okay, we think stress is caused outside of us, but stress is created from thought. Now, I remember being at one of our community groups, a lady came, didn't she? And we're talking, the title was stress, wasn't it? And she came and she just,
message her.
We do. And she just glared at us. And the next week she came back and she said, I I looked at you, sat there, no kids. She said, I've got 4 kids. I'm a single mum. She said, I have to get them to school, and they go to different schools. She said, I looked at you last week and I thought, what the hell do you know about stress? You know nothing about stress. Look at you with your privileged little life. She said, and then I went home. She said, and when I went home, I went to bed. And I woke up in the morning, she said, and everything had changed. She said, I felt totally different. She said, I went downstairs. She said, my eldest son was making breakfast for the other kids. She said, I'd normally be running down going, whatever it's called, get your breakfast. Get your clothes on. She said, one of them was brushing their teeth. The other one was sat at the table, fully dressed, ready to go to school. She said, they're all ready. She said, but I couldn't see it because I was always so stressed. She said, and then I realized it's true. Stress is created from thought. So we know that stress has the capacity to stop a heart like that, heart attack. Stress, the power of thought, has the capacity to kill people. That's how powerful thought is. Now, if that's true, would it not make sense then that its opposite must exist at the same time? That the power of thought has the capacity to heal. What we're talking about is no small thing. The power of thought isn't something to be kind of, oh, it's just a thought. No, 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 no. Forget just a thought. It's not just a thought. It's a potential from a force so unknown, so beyond words, so uncomprehendibly, infinitely potential filled, that we don't even know as human beings what we're capable of. When I had my awakening, I was given these words. These were the words I was given as I came back. There are gifts within thought that mankind is not consciously evolved enough yet to utilize, but it's coming. That's what I was told. I knew that wherever that knowledge was coming from wasn't my intellect, it wasn't my ego. It was coming from a space before this world experience. And I knew it was true. The power of thought is something that is so, and this is in the book of Thomas, Jesus said, if you had faith the size of a mustard seed, you would say to the mountain, move, and the mountain must move. Faith, belief, a use of thought. Thing is, you can't trick yourself into believing. But you can realize the untruth of the beliefs that you hold that limit your capacity to believe something new. You can see the untruths in your beliefs. You can start to realize and get humble and question. That you can do. You have the power to question. Is the way that I see this circumstance, is the way I see myself, is the way I see other people, the way I see this world, is it true? The information I've got, is it true? You see, the moment you do that, you question the ego. And the moment you question the ego, you're getting humble. The moment you get humble, you create a new reality. You create the potential to create a new reality. What's that saying? Nature abhors a vacuum. It will fill it with newness. I think that's where we're going as a species. I think we're going to go there pretty rapid. Okay, does anybody else want to share anything? Do you want to say anything?
I'd love to hear if people have anything to say or questions or comments.
I haven't really I haven't really got anything to say. But when I was just listening to that, I don't know where it is, but I feel like I'm in like some kind of trance. Like I'm just like really mega chill. So thanks for that. I've needed that today.
Oh, bless you. You know, that mega chill feels nice.
Yeah. I feel, do you know what I feel like that comes from though? A lot of it is, I think I've said this is like 3 weeks on the trot now. It's the art of not giving a shit.
Yeah. Yeah. When you stop being worried about your own thoughts, how much thinking does that take off your mind? How much quieter does the mind become? How much less stress do you have to experience? Because stress is it's just a very active thinking mind. I was saying to Jen, was it this morning? My mind's I've got some trees to do for my mum and dad. Was it yesterday? I've got some trees to reduce, some decking to put for my mum's birthday, doing some decking, and I've got this to do and that to do and this to do and that to do. This is all stuff like in days to come. I said, but my mind's so full of it, I feel really stressed. And it's like, but all it was just me thinking about the future. That's all it was. It was just me thinking, lost in time. And that's what stress is. You know, when that goes quiet, there is no stress. When that gets quiet again, there is no stress. And I was saying to a lady, it was a couple of weeks ago now, but we were having this conversation, and she's been struggling to kind of hear, for want of a better word. And she's, I don't know, she thinks she's something special. I think you're watching this. You're not there now, but she thinks she's something unique, something different to everybody else. What's the word? Exception. And I just watched this girl's face change, just relax, and this smile start to come on her face. She wasn't trying to fix anything. She was just listening. She was where Dan is, that space of chill. And I said, right now, exactly, right now, not 5 minutes ago, not 10 minutes ago, not, I don't want you to think about it. I want you to analyze it. Just right now, how do you feel? And she looked at herself for a moment and she said, really good. I said, cool. So what did you do to feel that way? Nothing, I was just listening to you. I said, were you trying to make yourself feel like that? And she said, no. I said, were you thinking about the future? No. Were you thinking about the past? And she said, no. I said, right. I said, what you're actually experiencing is what life itself feels like before you analyze it or before you judge it. That's what life feels like. Life feels beautiful. That's why when people have these moments, these spontaneous moments of the now moment, they get filled with this love, this state of love, because life is love. It's a beautiful state of being, is life. It always is. And when our mind starts to get quieter, we start to access that more and more. And the quieter the mind becomes, the more we access it. But it doesn't, it's, to me, it's a beautiful thing to become aware of. It's a truly, truly beautiful thing to become aware of. But it is the truth of life itself. So therefore, everybody already is that truth. And with that in mind, I just encourage people. I encourage people to listen, but not to try and attain a state of being. I encourage people to listen and live as a human being, as you, as go and explore life, go and explore this world, go and meet people, go and enjoy it. Because that state of being that we're talking about, you will go back to. You'll go back to at the end. But in the meantime, we're here to be human. We're here to be in the body. We're here to play. We're here to play in the duality of life. We're here to play in the illusion of our mind. That's the gift we've been given as human beings, to come into this world and to play in the infinite variety of reality that lies within our being, and play as though it's outside of us. To play as though we're not the creator. To forget. It's a beautiful thing to remember, because that's all that ever happens. You just remember. It's all that's happened. When you realize it, you've just remembered. It was never anything other than how you've discovered. It was always that way. It doesn't care where you are emotionally. It doesn't matter if you're at the pits, in the depths of this despair, in addiction. It doesn't matter. It doesn't change anything. It doesn't change the fundamental fact. For me, it's about engaging with life and living. This conversation won't make you anything better. It won't make you more spiritual. Nothing will make you more spiritual. You create reality. How spiritual do you want to be? You are the infinite force of creation. How spiritual do you need to be?
The conversation is helping you become aware you are spirit. You're not going to be more of it. You become more aware of what you already are.
How about telling us about your retreat then?
Oh yeah, thanks, Julie.
You poorly?
Yeah. Poorly sick. Yes, Julie, we have a week coming up. 15th and 19th of August. It is in God's Own County, Cumbria. Cumbria. It's in the English Lake District. It is on the side of Coniston Water. We're going to be putting together a flyer and maybe a little video. Yeah.
It's got a sauna, it's got a plunge pool.
It's got a lake to go swimming.
A lake as well, but the plunge pool. Fire pit.
It's really nice.
Yeah, we went and looked at it yesterday. And we've been looking for a retreat centre up here.
Yeah.
We found nice ones, but this one, just the setting of this and the place that it is this is what we've been thinking of, I think.
Yeah. And food's catered. Apart from lunch, because people probably going to disappear off into Coniston, go and do their own thing for lunch, go for walks or whatever. And we generally find that if we do lunch,
there's also a kitchen if
you
people
never
want to
know
make their own lunch and take it off with them. So.
Yeah, you can make your own, take your own food, do your own lunches. But we generally find if we do lunch, most people don't show up for it. So do your own lunch, breakfast, dinner included. Yeah, 4 days. This is 4 days. And
Yeah, arrival Friday. So meal together Friday night, all day Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and leaving Tuesday.
yeah. So we're really excited for it. We are calling it the Great Reset, Julie, as we like the name. Thought it was original. Never heard of it before. So we're going to go for the Great Reset. And yeah, it's for anybody. It's for people who've been around it a while, who just want a great reset. Perhaps they want to come and listen again, listen afresh, get that humility in them and come and listen afresh. And it's good for us to do that as well and be with you lot and all of us grow together. And yeah, we're really excited for it. So I just want to say thank Colin Cath for giving us a kick up the backside, and about 11 other people who in that same week all at the same time said, are you going to do an in-person retreat? And we can't remember who the hell they were.
I've got some.
We got some of them. Right.
It sounds good. I know last time we had a fire pit and all that. It was lovely, like sitting around chatting outside the sessions. Yeah, that was my first one I ever went with you guys.
Was.
Yeah,
We went out in the dark.
yeah, it went out in the dark. But,
I'm outside.
yeah.
I'm scared.
It was yeah, fantastic. No, lovely all being on site.
Cool.
Mhm.
Thanks, Julie. Yeah, so if you're
Cool.
watching this and you're interested, get in touch, info@freedomthinking.co.uk. If you can, make a donation. Can people donate via PayPal?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. You can donate via PayPal. PayPal ID.
I got hacked
Yeah.
last week. So they'd taken over my Airbnb account. They'd taken over pretty much anything. They tried to log in from apparently like 25 pages worth of countries for trying to log into my, I don't know.
You were really popular that day, weren't you?
Yeah, but it didn't affect your PayPal.
Didn't affect my
Yeah.
PayPal. Money was taken out of the PayPal, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, but it's not, yeah.
Right. Yeah, PayPal ID, info@freedomthinking.co.uk. If you want to work with us, get in touch, info@freedomthinking.co.uk. Don't go visit the website at the moment, unless depending on whether you're watching this in a week or two's time, you might be able to, because the website's down,
Been rebuilt.
being rebuilt. And yeah, if you can make a donation, the links are in the description below. Just want to thank everybody who's turned up today. And thank you everybody for sharing. You've all been wonderful. I thoroughly enjoyed this.
I missed the first hour, but the last hour's been nice. Well, I had a nice first hour anyway.
What's downstairs?
Reading stories and
Oh, I bet you did.
getting slapped in the face by a snake.
Oh, great. Great. Thank you, everyone. We will be back Monday.
Next Monday.
No, I always have to look at the diary. Yeah, back next Monday. So loads of love. God bless. Thank you, everyone.